Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Such.
And my name is James.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, James, how confident do you feel that you're still in with a chance? I'm not saying you're going to win the 50,000, but in with a chance of the 50,000.
Oh, yeah, in with a chance, yeah.
Still on the table. So 5 weeks in, and we haven't fucked up.
No, I don't know. That's debatable. I think personally, I'm probably a little bit lucky that there's obviously been major issues going on with injuries. I mean, like people who went Pickford to Mendy on Sunday. It's so ridiculously unlucky. It's just nothing else to say other than you're unlucky, and it just does feel like a collective of problems happening for people at the moment. And I have been quite lucky in that sense. There's no skill to avoiding injuries, and unless you're picking injury prone players like Joel Matip, and then you deserve the problems. But I haven't had it as yet. I'm sure it will come.
Indeed. I mean, Matip just didn't play though.
Yeah, there is that. I did mention on the stream I did for our patrons on Friday that I actually thought it wasn't a surprise to me. I did say that I thought there was a possibility Joel Matip might be left out, so it didn't come as a huge shock to me.
How was your game week? Where does it leave?
Yeah, okay, not bad. 104 points, 3 good captaincy returns. So Rafinha Friday, which at one point on Friday it looked like he wasn't going to play, wasn't it? And it was like, oh, what am I? Oh, I'm gonna have to buy fucking Cooper, and I like the state of this is just not looking good at all. So he pulled through with 22 points. Mo Salah's 30 points on Saturday, another 20 from Cristiano Ronaldo on a Sunday. Other than that, 10 points Ruben Diaz, 16 points Antonio Rudiger on Sunday. I bought Conor Gallagher on Saturday for Adam Webster. He blanked. So did James Ward-Prowse. So did Damari Gray. Joel Matip, no show. Jose Sarr with a banging 0-pointer home to Brentford.
And where does that leave you overall? Not that it particularly matters right now, but I'm sure some listeners might be interested in where you're at.
2581.
2581. And that's 485, 90 points?
Oh, you always do that test to me. That's 496.
Okay. I ended up on 109 points, so not a lot of difference between us. And it's hardly unsurprising when the returnees for us are basically exactly the same in Rafinha, Salah, Ronaldo as the captaincy, and obviously the most highly captain players on each day, so made it quite difficult to make any ground. I also had Rudiger and Diaz for their points and nothing else, similar to you. The no-show, well, Antonio was obviously suspended, so we knew there was going to be a 0-pointer there. Ferran Torres, who was an overhaul punt, is definitely a punt, and it's not one that's working. So I've got a problem to solve there. I made I had Ben White as well. So Ben White, 7 points was actually quite decent. I made 2 transfers at the weekend. I moved on Webster for Marcel, primarily because of his price. I couldn't afford a 6.5, 6.6. If I wanted to downgrade Torres to Gallagher and then get Lukaku potentially for Antonio. So my whole merry-go-round was driven by getting a 6.4 million defender, which I did. And then the Pickford injury opened up the move to Sanchez, and Gallagher was going to be a move to cover captaincy on Monday night, which is something that we'll talk about on the show. But by getting Sanchez, I didn't need to. Now, both of those 2 transfers, both players only got me 1 point each, which isn't great, but it solved a problem. The thing now is that I don't need to sell Ferran Torres for a Brighton or Crystal Palace player to give me coverage for the Monday night, because I now have that with Sanchez. And I have 1.2 million in the bank. And I have the advantage of this Saturday, my apologies, seeing the Man City team. And if Ferran Torres is not in the team for the 12:30 game, there's every chance I could just bin.
Oh, you mean directly on Saturday? Of course, yeah. No,
yeah, if he's
I'm
not
thinking,
playing,
yeah,
just move it on.
I was going to say to you, what are you planning to do?
I'm not sure yet. It's probably something that we will discuss. But
the
I've got
Sunday options might not necessarily be great, but obviously, of course, if he's not in the team and then you've been in straight away, that's kind of same business, isn't it?
exactly.
I don't think it's the sort of fixture where you'd be particularly worried, oh, he's going to come on and return. Of course, he could, but I don't think you'd be expecting that. What's your initial thoughts there then?
Well, I've got plenty in the bank. That's the thing, right? Ferran Torres is priced at 9.1, so that gives me up to 10.3 million for a midfielder, and that's basically everyone except De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes. I don't see the need for any captaincy coverage because of the Salah, Ronaldo, and even Antonio giving me the coverage for what I need, plus Diaz and Rudiger. I mean, again, so often we don't captain the defenders and they just go on and score double-digit returns. So I don't feel like it's a player. I don't need to replace him with someone that I need for captaincy, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because we said this previously. Once you get beyond the Brighton Palace game, basically October really shouldn't be mass issues for people in terms of finding the captaincy coverage. I need to buy a player to get a physical player in the game. One is obviously the 2 Arsenal games. Other than that, something you have in the squad should probably cover you everywhere up till the Wolves-Everton game on November the 1st. You've got Rafinha and Antonio, haven't you?
Correct, yeah.
So, I mean, even looking up to October the 31st, you've got the choice of probably the 2 best assets on that day as it stands now, all the way up to there.
Yeah.
That's major issue. No major issue for you there. Do you consider, how low would you have to go if you were going to think of going Antonio to Lukaku?
So Lukaku is priced at 11.3. So I would then be left with 7.8 million in the bank, which actually there's a number of decent players in that bracket.
Yeah, it's just about, because we spoke about that before the season, during the overhaul, saying, well, we kind of worked out Gallagher's below that now, but actually 7.8. Yeah, the Damari Grays, all that, they're just there, aren't they? 7.8. That's interesting.
Yeah,
there isn't a good. You don't really want to come off Antonio, I don't think.
No.
But it's one different way to skin it, maybe, mate.
One to consider as the kind of week progresses. There's still some Carabao Cup games this evening. We could still see injuries and problems like that arise out of them. So we could see one person on this podcast go all the way to Wolverhampton just to get his pants pulled down. Yeah. Hi. Good morning, everyone. For those on Twitter who noticed we're in the Zoom studio at 7:45 a.m. Yeah, good morning. That's why. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm going to wait and see what happens after this evening's games and take my time. Like, we don't have to worry about price rises, do we? So, yeah, going to wait and see.
I'll stop worrying about that in FPL, to be honest with you.
What are your thoughts then on captaincy for this upcoming weekend? Again, I think we might see a bit of divergence on Saturday. To be honest, we might see some divergence across the weekend because both Salah and Ronaldo are good captaincy options on the Saturday, with Cristiano at home to Villa and Salah away to Brentford. My instincts at the moment is to go with Ronaldo just because it's the home fixture.
Yeah, I'm probably going Ronaldo as well. I think it's very close.
So close. I'm really hoping that across the players, it's a 50-50 split, because it's when you get these splits that you see movement in the table and stuff.
I think if I was to look at it now and say, just looking from a shot volume perspective, what's the chance of Ronaldo going through that game and having a few shots against Villa?
Oh, he will.
Low. Was I look at Salah at Brentford and think, they're doing well defensively at the moment. Could they keep him quiet? The other thing, obviously, with Mo is there's the small possibility you get left out. And Ronaldo's game is 12:30. It's the same time as the Chelsea Man City fixture. The reason why it's 12:30 kickoff. So I think the Cortinas are playing. I've got a gig at Old Trafford Cricket Ground, I think, but definitely near Old Trafford. And the police requested that the Manchester United fixture be moved.
Okay.
So if you're wondering why it's the 12:30 kickoff, that's why. So in fact, you definitely see Ronaldo in the team as well. All the little things where you think, oh, I'll compare this. I'll look. it just leans towards Ronaldo, I think,
Mm.
for this particular game week. So, yeah, I'm highly likely to go Ronaldo on Saturday against Villa over Salah. I mean, to be honest with you, Antonio at Leeds, it's not the worst shout.
No, if you don't, I mean, the ownership in the top 1K is 96, 97% for both Salah and Ronaldo, and 32% overall for Ronaldo, 50% give or take for Salah.
And what's it for Antonio?
So Antonio in the top 1K has dropped to 14.8%, James, and 12.93 overall. So that's a real differential punt.
Exactly. You don't need to punt the captaincy on Antonio then, because the returns will be good enough for you. That's interesting. I didn't think it dropped that much, to be honest. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very, very low. So I think Ronaldo, but yeah, there are a number of options there. And obviously we've had questions. I mean, look at Everton at home to Norwich, and people that
we will do.
Richarlison,
we're going to ignore
ECL and Luca Dean, and you're like,
to be honest, originally,
painful.
yeah, you would have looked at, if Calvert-Lewin was fit, we'd be putting him in the conversation because of the opposition. Absolutely, you're not going to stick the armband on Damari Gray or just because it's Norwich. Yeah. Like, I don't see that as an option when you've got Ronaldo, Salah sitting there. Sometimes we say it often in this game. Don't overthink it. I think the choices between Ronaldo, Salah, it's quite close. Personally, I'll be going with Ronaldo. I'll be fairly staggered if there's anyone listening who's got neither. I can't. Yes. At this moment in time, I can't believe anybody kind of from overall didn't start with one of the two. So I think that's the choice. Surely, if you haven't got at least one of the two, you must have Antonio as the fullback. Make
yourself known if you don't have either of the two. Now, Sunday is a bit of an interesting one. I always went into came out of, I should say, overhaul with Ben White as backup coverage for this weekend, and also ended up with James Ward-Prowse as well. And then I was going to leave the Harry Kane should I, shouldn't I question for literally up until the day. Having seen what I've seen in the last couple of weeks, I will be putting the armband on James Ward-Prowse.
So will I.
And you know, I was going to ask you about this because it's important for us to test each other's thinking a little bit. I'm worried that I'm doing it out of frustration of having had to use transfers on injuries. So I don't want to waste another one on trying to get a better captain. So I'm just going to roll with it. So am I just being a bit defeatist and just like, I'm not going to burn another transfer, so that I'll just put it on James Ward-Prowse, when really the upside of making a transfer might be bigger?
So there's a lot of people were planning to buy Kane this Sunday, and a lot of people will still buy Kane this Sunday. Firstly, just a personal opinion, don't doubt Harry Kane. You can doubt my football team all you like. Don't doubt Harry Kane. But Harry Kane still needs the ball. If Harry Kane's not getting the ball is a problem. Notoriously, the North London derby, which is a fixture that Kane obviously performs quite well in, is notoriously a fixture where both teams score. But it's notoriously quite low scoring. We're talking 1-1s, 2-1s, and generally the score here. Whoever scores first tends to lose quite often as well. Seems to be the way it goes. If I had Ben White, which you have, I'd be very tempted to go with him, I think, Suj.
I don't think I trust Arsenal to keep a clean sheet. That's the thing, James.
I reckon there might be one for them, because I don't think this is about historical at the moment. I think this is about Tottenham have a major creativity issue. Arsenal were likely to bring Xhaka back into the team, I guess. We said on Monday's pod they might stick, but of course Xhaka's suspended for the Wimbledon game this evening. So I guess Xhaka probably comes back in and they go back to a pivot with Xhaka and Partey. I can't see Tottenham being creative in that area. Now, Son and Kane can obviously create for themselves out of moments of brilliance. We know that. But it's a big creativity issue. And I think Arsenal will try and squeeze Tottenham and make the game really fast-paced. And if they do, I don't think Tottenham can cope with it at the moment. And at the moment, I think they would beat us on Sunday. And I think Kane can't press like he's 21 years old anymore. Son, he's a half and half kind of presser. If Lucas and Bergwijn are out, you're taking another element of pace out the back line. And I can see Tottenham going quite deep, quite defensive, and White and Gabriel picking up passing tiers, personally.
Mm.
That said, it's interesting that the Chelsea boys at the weekend didn't get them. But then Tottenham played quite well in the first half. Second half, they completely bullied us, don't get me wrong. But they didn't hit passing tiers. I just suspect because of the fear of this game that Tottenham might end up going very deep and drawing Arsenal on. But for that tactic to work for Tottenham, they need Lucas or Bergwijn to be fit. And it doesn't look like they probably will be.
No. Yeah. It's a consideration, but James Ward-Prowse hasn't picked up attacking returns in a little while, so I feel like he's due. I feel like he's brewing that he's going to pick something up in this game. He's only had the one goal this season.
You know what the alternative is to buying Kane, don't you?
Buying Son,
No.
Eric Dyer or Davis.
Listen, you'll have 4 for 2 over the majority of teams with Aubameyang and 3 captaincies. Becomes effective 7-2. If you include, obviously, the Palace Villa fixtures, the other Arsenal game we've thrown in there is Brighton.
James, do not try and kill me with logic here. Don't use logic to make me make this transfer, because if you put it like that, it's actually a very sensible thing to think about. Arsenal are.
Well, think of it like this. My plan was, and probably still is, to buy Kane not this Sunday, but next Sunday when they play Aston Villa. Captain him against Villa, captain him against Newcastle. And that, in my plan, means keeping Ronaldo for the Everton fixture on Saturday, the 2nd of October, then selling him for Kane when Kane plays Newcastle. Chain moving that, and then going to, in pencil, Aubameyang for the 2 Arsenal fixtures. But of course, from that point, if I'm then selling Kane, it can be any Arsenal player, right? If I was to go Aubameyang this Sunday instead, let's say Ronaldo got injured on Saturday. If I go Aubameyang instead, not only am I getting physical 7-2 over a lot of others, I'm saving a transfer as well. By just going straight to Aubameyang and cutting off the Kane. Now, if I cut off the Kane, you have to go, okay, what am I doing with the captaincy instead? And the risk in that is, particularly for the Sunday the 17th, I'd need Antonio fit.
Okay.
But that's what I would do instead. I would have Antonio captain at home to Brentford and Antonio captain away to Everton. And you look at it and you think, is that a disaster? So I haven't made a Kane decision yet, because it might be that I just cut out Kane. So let's assume Ronaldo stays fit. It might be that I just cut out the Ronaldo to Kane move, keep Ronaldo for Leicester away, and then just move to an Arsenal player from Ronaldo on Monday the 18th when they play Crystal Palace. And that's where I'm at. And I think those who are indecisive about buying Kane this week should give that a second thought. I know what people are going to say about Aubameyang, but as you said, logically, there's sense in that.
Massive sense, James. Massive sense. I'm silent because I feel like
I've decided I'm going to make that move.
I need to go and do some research, because obviously I was talking about where do I go with Torres if I downgrade. There's a question that we've had in Twitter about the whole freemium strikers, and when we get to that, we'll discuss it, because what I can't see myself doing at the moment is moving away from Antonio. So we will get to that when we get to the Twitter questions. We can discuss this Aubameyang move.
Can I clarify one thing? The best captaincy option in the Arsenal-Tottenham game is still Harry Kane, because it's Harry Kane. That's the reality. It
just isn't as clear as it could
and
have
I'm
been
sure,
in previous years.
Have a look
it's not a standout.
Have a look at his ownership, Suj.
Harrison Kane.
I'm fairly sure he will be the most captain player on Sunday. I mean, that stands to logic.
He would need a shitload of transfers for that to happen.
Really? What's
in
his
the
ownership?
top 1K, 5.3%.
Yeah.
Overall, 13%.
But do you think any of these, Aubameyang doesn't have that ownership? Do you think there's massive ownership on Wolves and Southampton players? This is the point. A lot of people were looking at this Sunday to go and buy Kane as part of the strategy, part of the plan. And many will still follow through with that. And if it's part of your plan, I ain't going to tell you to go backwards on it. And I still think he's the best option. Because if Tottenham do play well, Kane will score. And Kane will probably hit shots here in that fixture as well. And suddenly you're looking at the 9-10 point and you go, thank you very much. That'll do. Do I think James Ward-Prowse that scores Kane on Sunday? No, not really. But it's not the right time for me. I need to make a further assessment on Kane. And there's possibly tonight, Sunday, European fixture next Thursday for me to get some more information as well. I don't read too much into his body language and stuff. Tottenham's creativity at the moment is zero. Can't do nothing without the ball. We played a very different position left of the front three forwards for the first hour or so against Chelsea. That's not something that's going to last and shouldn't concern people long term. I think it was a one-off strategic decision to try and help Tottenham with the creativity issue, because he's the best passer in the team, right?
What are your thoughts on Monday? Obviously, I think for most people it's just captain who you got, really, because we're not fully loaded up with Brighton and Palace players. Gallagher's going to be highly owned. Sanchez, well, I say highly owned, he's going to be owned. Sanchez is going to be owned. And that's pretty much going to cover off a lot, right?
Before we do, just cover off Southampton Wolves.
Yes.
Are you going Ward-Prowse over Marcel? Is that right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the decision thought process on that?
Tell me how many clean sheets Wolves have kept all season.
One.
And James Ward-Prowse is anytime, any place, penalties, free kicks, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I totally get and understand that.
I had a question for you for the pod, which was, why did you pick James Ward-Prowse as the picture for the questions tweet that you put out yesterday? Now I know why. James Ward-Prowse.
It's fairly obvious. Shout out to Ben Cameron, who was on our Slack channel on Patreon last night. So I wonder if that's a clue to who James is going to captain on Sunday. And I was like, Ben's
a clever boy.
You should already know this, mate. This has been revealed previously. Just a note on what kind of influences it as well. From I've got Jose Sard. The thing I like about captain keepers is if it is a clean, it's at least the 9 points. And I do really like that. But I think Ward-Prowse, you'd put a kind of base level. I think you'd really hope for 5 points as a baseline for Sunday, which is decent. And part of the reason I say that is there've been 7 players who've picked up passing tiers against Wolves so far this season, and 4 of them are midfielders. And that's a little bit unusual. So Tielemans and Diddy, Fred and Pogba, all of the pivots have picked up from the two, let's put Leicester as big 6 at the moment. They've picked up passing tiers against Wolves. Tottenham went in obviously very defensive against them. Watford and Brentford, you wouldn't expect the midfielders to get the passing tiers. So the ones where the midfielders you'd gone, passing tiers possibility there. Tielemans and Diddy, Pogba, Fred, the 4 pivots have picked up passing tier against Wolves. So I think Ward-Prowse and Romeo have a good shout at that this week. Then obviously when you add on with the Ward-Prowse, do you know what? He's capable of the attacking return in any game. I don't think I need to overlook that on Sunday. Agreed. Actually, he does the job just fine. I know he's not done anything in the 2 games so far, but I think we know that consistency is there from him. No one's going to take the set pieces off him and stuff, are they?
Should we do some of the old questions that we've had on Twitter, James?
Monday, what are you doing?
Wow, whoever you got. I think the answer to that one is really...
What if you've got nothing?
Oh, if Sanchez is out, that's it. I'm going to skip it. I'm not going to use a transfer.
Oh, I just meant if you haven't, there'll be people obviously you haven't got anything yet. What would you do? What's the best choice? Money aside, what's the best choice?
That's a good question.
It's still Lewis Dunk.
Lewis
for me,
Dunk?
I think. Yeah.
Jinx. No, we can't do Jinx. It's a podcast. We need to be able to talk. Lewis Dunk, I would say, is probably still the best choice. Yeah.
Zaha, I think, like if Palace play well and win the game, attacking return and man of match potential is obviously there for him. He knows how much it means to their fans. God knows why it does, but it does.
Yeah.
So I think Zaha as an individual for the night. And of course, if you want to go with someone like that, or the Palace player, he does cover the Arsenal Palace game as well. Then you can make the choice of, do you need the Arsenal player? Do you skip Arsenal Villa, for example? Or do you look at a Villa player? Probably wouldn't recommend that. I think money no object though. The right signing would be Lewis Dunk for the majority of people. Duffy is going to be an ongoing risk. So Burns fit. Tariq Lamptey set to play in the Carabao Cup tonight, which doesn't obviously affect Duffy in the media, but it means Veltman potentially coming back inside. So there are threats to Duffy, which, I mean, the good news is at least you'll see the team. I just think you have to know that if you're buying Shane Duffy at some point, you're booking in another transfer. I think Sanchez will be one that solves a goalkeeping solution for people. But I think those with Pickford surely went to Sanchez last Sunday. I feel like Pickford, if those who had Pickford, it was Sanchez or Mendy last Sunday. And I think one or two went with De Gea, actually. But in terms of covering that, if you didn't have Palace Brighton, you had Pickford, you didn't go to Sanchez last Sunday. I don't really understand what the thinking is if you didn't do that.
Mm. So yes, we have had some goalkeeper.
I'll be on Gallagher.
You'll be Gallagher, yeah. Oh, you own him, so
Yeah.
it makes that an easy choice. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. FPL_Hambone. He wants to know if we're going to transition to a threemium up front. Mo, Ron. And to be fair, let's chuck in potentially Kane and Aubameyang. I'll say under my breath into the conversation of expensive, not premium, but expensive strikers. The single biggest thing stopping me from going to threemium up top, James, and he's big with his thighs, is Antonio. I can't see myself wanting to. Not that I'm particularly thinking where else am I going to spend the money, but if I keep Antonio and don't have threemium up front, then it does mean that with a bit of manoeuvring, I can bin Markow, which I really don't want him there, and go to VVD, something along those lines.
You just bought Marcel.
Yeah, but it was covering me. It was mainly because I didn't have any. Webster was no coverage, and I need to downgrade Torres to get some money to get to VVD. But yeah, I can't see myself going to freemium up top. It'll be 2 premiums for sure, plus Antonio until Antonio gets injured, and I'll rotate the premiums based on captaincy.
Yeah, I can't see Antonio as long as he stays fit. I can't see him going anywhere for me till at least around about Sunday the 31st of October. I can't see it after this weekend. Brentford, Everton, Tottenham, Villa, all Sundays. And as I've already spoken about, if I don't go Kane, I need that. I need that massively. No thought for me to, I mean, the exit point, if you did want to get rid, is ideally is this Saturday after Leeds. But the teams you'd want to go and buy from, he's not there.
Is it Salah that you're planning on selling Salah for?
No, Ronaldo.
Ronaldo. Okay.
My plan is Ronaldo to Kane on Sunday the 3rd currently, which is then to stretch to Aubameyang, stretches to Lukaku, probably stretches back to Kane. It probably means a long period without Ronaldo is in my thinking at the moment, and I recognise the dangers of that, right?
Yep.
No, I can't see it. To be honest, if Antonio got injured, I think rather than going, oh my God, I've got to have the free premium up front, I really think I might be going 5-3-2 and go defensively. I think that's got to be the almost the easiest way to maneuver the money there, right? For it to just be one transfer, go, right, what can I get around Antonio's value, be it another Chelsea defender or something like that, for example. I think that's what I'd do at the moment. If Antonio got injured this weekend, I'd be thinking, right, let's get another Chelsea defensive player in. That would probably be my first instinct. So no, I just think it causes too much damage in the rest of the team, personally. You have to keep making the sacrifices. So Diaz has basically probably got to be Stones and Laporte. Van Dijk has got to be Matip, and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to do that, personally.
Luke wants to know if Mendy's out again for the game on Saturday, is it worth it? His argument is he doesn't think they'll keep a clean sheet anyway, which I'm not so sure about.
I think they might, actually.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about, mate. But with that in mind, he doesn't think it's worth the transfer this week, just in case he's back the week after. And it's City, right? So
it's a definite hold.
Good.
It's a definite hold. If you bought him Sunday, you're dirty unlucky. The only case I could make against the hold is if you haven't got Palace Brighton coverage and you're really happy with the other 10 players in your squad, then you could move it sideways to Sanchez, give you the captaincy coverage on the Monday night. But otherwise, I think it's a definite hold. Thomas Tuchel said he's touch and go for the game against Manchester City. He definitely won't play tonight. He's touch and go. He's working hard. He's going to try and rejoin training tomorrow on Thursday.
They're going to want him to play, so I can see them trying to do what they can, painkilling injections in the lot. Yeah, you
would think that's possible. You've got Juventus in the Champions League next midweek as well. So you would think they're going to want to get him up the speed pretty quickly. So yeah, I wouldn't be selling unless he obviously does the training on Thursday and it's reported, look, setback, or he can't. It's going to be longer, something like that. So keep an eye on Tuchel's press conference. I don't know when Tuchel's press conference is. You want it to be on Friday. rather than Thursday. Because if it's Thursday, there's every chance that he'll do the press conference and he'll train afterwards and you get no
We still won't
information.
know.
Yeah.
And Philip have a similar question around Pickford. Should they hold him?
I'm surprised he's still there.
So
that's
is
the
answer
opposite.
to
It's
that.
a definite sell. When that happens, so the manager comes out, and to be honest, it was all over Everton's website, it was all over their social media. The Coleman, Richarlison, and Jordan Pickford likely to be out 2 to 3 weeks. What we holding for? The advantage is now. So for me, that was a definite move to someone on Sunday, be it the two we mentioned, Sanchez, Mendy, David De Gea, alternative option.
Yeah. Also wants to ask about Trincao to Ben White on the Sunday. If Trincao doesn't start, would it be a good move to cover Arsenal captaincies? I mean, yeah, if you need coverage for those Arsenal captaincies, you haven't got it. You're never going to use Trincao for captaincy. Wolves haven't been on fire. Ben White's been okay last couple of games. I think it's all right.
Is the bad news. Trincao will probably be in the team.
Yeah.
In which case you ain't making that move.
No.
There were escapes from Wolves. All right. So they played Newcastle Saturday the 2nd. They played Villa Saturday the 16th. They play Leeds Saturday the 23rd. But then if you haven't got Wolves Everton coverage, if you've got that far, you'll want it for Monday, November the 1st. And before you know it, you've got a player sitting in there who's not doing a lot, who is just burning a hole in your squad for 5-6 game weeks or so. But
I'm not going to hold Mark Allen until then.
As we said with him, he likes a shot. I wouldn't panic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't panic, but I really was not keen on the Wolves attacking players. And I think for this format of game, definitely Traore over Trincao for me in this game.
If Markel gets dropped on Sunday, and this is from, the handle says all Bruno, but I don't think his name's Bruno.
Why have we bought Wolves players that we're shitting ourselves and we get dropped?
If Markel gets dropped on Sunday, no other captain. Oh, no other captain on Sunday. Would you burn a transfer going to Livramento to give you captaincy coverage? Obviously he plays. Or would you prioritize getting in Gallagher or Duffy to captain on the Monday? Gallagher, I think, is a longer term.
Honestly, if I was going into Sunday, suddenly, let's just say Salah and Ward-Prowse for me are not available on Sunday. I'm buying an Arsenal player. I wouldn't think twice about it. If James Ward-Prowse wasn't in the Southampton Centre, bang, Ward-Prowse, Ben White, I think I'd just get it done.
Okay.
And then reassess. I think that because of the Arsenal 2 fixtures later on, this is another entry point to them. There are certain players we can look at and go, unless they get injured, they're going to play. They're going to play these games. Ben White, Gabriel, Kieran Tierney. Goalkeeper's a bit dodgy at the moment. I think Ramsdale further down the line could be a really good option here, but not just yet, personally. Might be one to look at for those on Monday the 18th. Aubameyang, Smith-Rowe, Saka. There's options. So for me, I would be looking at it and going, to say you're sitting there with Damari Gray, for example, a few people will be. I think that if I went into Sunday and had nothing, let's just say I went in with just Sarr, suddenly Sarr's out, and I go, shit, I don't want to buy Ramsdale yet. Damari Gray to an Arsenal player straight away. So, nothing to think about for me.
We've got 3 questions here, James, all mentioning arse and all. And I didn't realize that in the community, this is a bigger deal than it is, perhaps because I just bought Ben White on Overhaul. And I'm going to read all 3, and you can maybe wrap up your thoughts in a sentence or 2. FF Thinker, Arsenal have a back-to-back single game day. If you had Gallagher to cover Monday and he covers the first fixture, would you be tempted by a Villa asset instead for the second? This is Chris Port, which Arsenal players are worth considering bringing in for their single game days overall? Is Ramsdale a contender if you have a keeper issue? And McFlurry Oreos says, I've got Conor Gallagher. I'm thinking ahead to the potential Arsenal double. What would you think of captaining Gallagher in the first one and skipping Arsenal Villa and saving the transfer as well? So a couple of people thinking just sack off the second Arsenal single game day because Gallagher covers the first.
Yeah, and I'm in that position with Gallagher, but at the moment there is no intention to skip that. And to be honest with you, if I do pick up an injury, let's say Damari Gray gets injured for me on Saturday, I think I will buy an Arsenal player on Sunday. And there are a few others where I think, if I get a Saturday injury and it looks like a bad one, I'm buying an Arsenal player on Sunday. I think that's probably where it would be at for me. In terms of skipping, I for those with Gallagher, I can see, yeah, he'll cover the first one. But let's be realistic. What are we really expecting out of Conor Gallagher? We're not expecting masses. In terms of getting a Villa player then, instead, that's a no-no. The reason it's a no-no is, again, because the Villa game's the Friday night, you want to go the game earlier. And the entry point really would be Sunday the 3rd. So you've got to go 2 games earlier. So you're going Tottenham away, Wolves at home, then Arsenal away. And that's what you've gone early for. It doesn't sound great. So probably wouldn't bother. The only one I could see as a case for that, to be honest, one option, those who've got Pickford, Emi Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
It's back. You go now, go Manchester United on Saturday. Yes, Tottenham Wolves covers the captaincy. So if you're sitting there with Gallagher and Pickford, it might be that Emi Martinez solves all your problems, is a possibility. But personally, otherwise, definite no on a Villa, and I would attack Arsenal. With all the information, the team on Monday the 18th, go and make the right decision for the 2 games. And unless the Watford fixture falls on Friday the 5th, or perhaps the early kickoff on Saturday the 6th, for example, then I'm binning it straight away. Binning it straight away, and then that's my entry to Lukaku.
Dan Cox, Mr. Bite Size. Can you give him a very bite-sized answer to this, James? And I'm going to aim it directly at you. Can you reassure me that Kane in is a good move?
No.
Oh, I thought that was going to be your answer.
That's a bite-sized answer for you. Dan knows. Listen, I listened to Dan after like game week 1 last season. He said, I'm never buying Kane again. I've heard him the other day, I'm never buying Calvert-Lewin again. He'd be back for these players. I would say, there's no point me giving Dan advice because he's won the game. He knows how to play this shit. But I think if the plan is to get Kane, I would stick with it. Yeah.
Agreed. This is a planner's game. Tom says Gallagher or Duffy as captain. That's a close one. I do not mind Duffy as an option as well.
I think if assuming Duffy's in the team, which obviously you'll get to see, I would go Duffy. And there's 2 folds for that. One is obviously
However, I should have read all of Tom's question, James. He says, I saw a tweet that said Bissouma's only 50% fit, and that's potentially bad news for Brighton. I'd still go Duffy.
Bissouma is not going to be risked tonight. I think you'll probably be okay. I'd still go Duffy. One of the reasons for that is as well, Palace have a set piece problem, which they haven't fixed yet. And it might be that they do with a bit more time with Anderson and Gahey, but they had a big problem with set pieces last year. Many of you would have seen Liverpool scored from 3 set pieces against them last week. A big problem. Duffy, if he gets a run at it, he's winning the header. So I would definitely be Duffy.
Fantasy Football Face-Off has the most difficult question to answer of the show, James. Is Mark Noble now an option that he's on penalties?
His XG per minute, mate, is off the scale. You know that.
I cannot wait for Tottenham that is going out today to talk about that nonsense. Benny Blanco in the house. He was asking about if Mendy is a hold. We've already answered that is correct. But he also wants a replacement for Richarlison.
Oh, that's a fairly grim one. Antonio, if you haven't got an update in terms of that value.
He's likely to have, isn't he?
I think, Benny, you should consider looking at defenders.
Yeah, go backwards, right, rather than going forwards.
You can always move one piece to then move it backwards. And that might be the solution. So honestly, it might be something like Ben White. It might be Lewis Dunk on Monday night, for example. I think there are a few different ways to play that.
Yeah. We've got Ron, who wants to know, should VVD owners be concerned by his passing numbers? He only hit passing tiers in 2 of 5 games. Is there a change in style, or do you think VVD is working his way back into the groove? Like, I've got him firmly on my radar.
So I don't think there should be overly concerned at the moment. I'd look at the game against Palace at the weekend. I think, well, look, first game with Konate, that's not ideal. Obviously, one of those passing tiers is worth saying is a little bit false as well, arguably, because it was against Chelsea, and obviously Chelsea played over a half with 10 men, and Van Dijk only got 72 passes in that particular fixture. Leeds away, is always difficult for defenders to get passing tiers. I did something for the advanced tier patrons about how Bamford shuts off passing lines. He essentially just doesn't allow the Van Dijk to Matip pass. And the only reason Matip hit it in the Leeds game was because Leeds had a player sent off. So it's another one that's a little bit forced. Burnley play more of a pressing game now. So if you actually look back, it's another one I highlighted from Liverpool's second goal against Burnley. Liverpool actually end up in an overload 5v4 position because Van Dijk actually plays a direct pass. So there was far less short passing than what you'd imagine against Burnley because they stop a lot of the forward passing lines into midfield. So you either go direct to bypass their issue. They have a big problem between defence and midfield spacing, or you go short. And in quite a lot of that game, Van Dijk went direct quite a bit. What did they have first? Norwich was first game, so I wouldn't read too much into
rusty.
that. He got 79 in that game anyway. What was the other fixture they've had? At the weekend, Palace was said about playing with Canati. So Chelsea, he got it, was a little bit false. Leeds, you shouldn't worry about. Burnley is not one you should take for granted. Norwich, he got. Palace, again, I think there's reasoning why not. I would not be overly concerned at the moment. It's actually that the fixture's not fallen particularly great for Virgil van Dijk. I would expect him to get him at Brentford at the weekend. I mean, if you are sitting there with Van Dijk and haven't got Salah or Ronaldo, which I guess is the sort of combination. If you didn't have Salah or Ronaldo, I guess you've probably got a Van Dijk sitting in there for Liverpool coverage. And in which case, yes, that's a reasonable alternative. Man City at home, you wouldn't expect the passing tiers. Watford away, you would. I think even Manchester United away, you probably would. Brighton at home very much depends on game status. So if Brighton are behind, probably not. But if Brighton would score early in the game, it's almost a certainty. But obviously, I understand you want the clean sheet and the passing double up. Brighton is very dependent at the moment in terms of their game status, what's happening with them. So they'll come.
A simple question from Lee Williams. Do you think Demarai Gray is now nailed on in that Everton 11? I would say so. I mean, the injuries help at the moment in that they're a bit bare bone. And we think Rodriguez is off to Qatar. So not that he was getting back into the team or squad anyway, but one less player in the squad there. So I think he's not one that you need to worry about selling.
I think if they're all at the moment, if they're all fit, yes, he's first choice. We can't guarantee he'll never be rested or anything like that because I think Townsend particularly is doing quite well at the moment as well. You've got Alex Iwobi in the wings. Obviously, once Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are back fit, there's every chance Richarlison will go back into a wide area or a 10 position. I think it probably only becomes dangerous for Gray at the moment if Benitez decides to move Doucouré higher up the pitch and bring Gomez into the team. Because essentially that removes one attacking spot. So if Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison come back, you would still think Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Gray, the first three. But then it becomes a little bit tighter. The good news with Gray is, we've spoken about this before, there are so many escape routes. You can escape him this Sunday. You can escape him next Sunday. You can escape him for the Arsenal Palace fixture. There are escapes all the way through from Everton players.
Indeed. And last but not least, Stian, therapy_FPL. I don't play Sky. It's because you're in another country, mate. Not allowed. Don't break the rules, because if you win it, I will grass you up.
I'm scared of people, Sidge.
No, not really. I'd only grass them up if I was second, to be honest with you. What should and could I take away from the Sky Pod for FPL? And if the answer is nada, that's okay too.
Planning ahead in transfers. Plan ahead. Most FPL managers cannot get that. They cannot get the idea of, this is game week 6, and if I'm planning strategically with my money, which is more difficult to do in FPL because of the volatility of price changes. But they cannot grasp the idea of, oh my God, he's got amazing fixtures, but actually shit, his fixtures are terrible from game week 8. Most FPL managers can't grasp that. And it's not accusing anyone. I'm just telling you the majority can't grasp that. So definitely that in terms of real planning ahead. I feel like I've always done that personally for FPL, but I think strategically and understanding is just so much more clear now with the thinking for Sky, because you know me, I won't really make a transfer in Sky unless I know the one afterwards.
Correct, indeed. And that, James, is not only the end of all of the Twitter questions, it basically means this is a perfect half of football. 45 minutes on the nose.
Nicely
Listeners,
done.
I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Planet SkyFF. We'll be back at you tomorrow with more content. James, do you want to tee up your guests on Clash of the Correspondents?
Yeah, it's Everton Norwich previewed with Spirit Blues and FPL Badger for Everton versus Norwich. And just a side note for those thinking about Harry Kane, for a secondary opinion, next Thursday's Clash of Correspondents, Tottenham versus Aston Villa. So there's a secondary potential opinion on Kane coming next Thursday as well.
Indeed. And of course, on Friday, you'll be live streaming with Ask James with a deadline on Saturday stream as well. So make sure you, wherever you're listening, watching, you're subscribed, you'll get notified as soon as our content goes live. If you want to support the show and join our Patreon, which does have a dedicated SkyFF channel, you probably know where to go and do it. It's on patreon.com/Planet FPL. So we won't bother plugging it much more. We're getting towards the end of the month. So, you know,
other than some people need hypnotizing with their Sky Fantasy football thoughts, and we did a pod yesterday on hypnotherapy.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting. So, listeners, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Have a great week. Cue music, please, man child.